Can you tell me a bit about the connection between shamanism and art?
The relation with shamanism and art is how to feel the world, how to live life. Art are feelings, shamanism are feelings. How do I perceive the world? How can I live my life? What can I do for the world? And what can I bring to the world? Not just taking, bringing to.
Well, shamans work in various different levels. They work in the spiritual world and also the physical world, more so in the spiritual. What are the shamans doing in the spiritual world where they're giving?
They live in beautiful places. They are to preserve that places. And I think that's we have to know the future.
No, but in the spiritual world.
In a spiritual world, because we live in a material world,
Yeah.
like the Beatles. We live in a material world. We must live in a spiritual world.
It was Madonna as well, wasn't it? I'm a material girl, isn't that what she said? Isn't Madonna's famous quote as well? I'm a material girl. Wasn't that one of her songs? Material girl?
World.
Is it Material World? That was Madonna, yeah?
No, it's John Lennon's.
Oh, it was
song.
John Lennon. No, but there's another song.
Another
I think
song?
by Madonna as well. Of all people.
Cause we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living in a material
The gold sculptures, like in Museo de Oro, how were those sculptures used in shamanism?
There is a different use. I have a real story. One archaeologist found a flute, and he said, "Oh, for the museum." One mamo said, "Wait, please preserve this flute in your house, not to the museum. Wait, I'll call you one day." He called to the archaeologist 10 years later and said, return to the Sierra Nevada with the flute. And the archaeologist returned. And the mamo said, "It's because my daughter was born. I need the music of this flute."
Wow.
It's a beautiful story.
Beautiful story.
Beautiful story. True story. Mamo was teaching the flute. The gold statues are not for the museums. They are for life, for energy, daily energy.
Could you explain what a little sculpture looks like and how it gives energy?
Yes, because it was in Spanish is votiva. Votiva means you promise to God, like a virgin statue, like a virgin painting. I can pray. These sculptures are for praying. I ask to the sculpture, I need health, I need a good future, I need my children will be good. This is a sculpture. Sculpture is not for the museum.
So they're magical instruments.
Of course, they're magical. The new cultures are stealing the real conception of these sculptures.
Well, this
If when you see Tutankhamun in London in a museum, is the place to Tutankhamun?
Well, I don't think it should be in any museum. It should probably be in the tomb that it was supposed to be in, neither an Egyptian nor an English museum. But the problem, my issue is actually that we're still not creating stuff. My problem is that all of these gold sculptures should be with the tribes, but we should be creating more for ourselves.
Exactly.
The problem is that these magical items are in a museum and they're just static. They're not doing anything. They're not being used. And if the culture was strong, then the culture would be renewing these ideas and it would be permanently.
Exactly. Cultures have moving, have to be moving, not static in the museum or in a house.
Do you think that these like little sculptures should be returned to the tribes?
Yes,
Or the
I think so.
communities?
I think so. I'm sure.
And why aren't the communities making more of these things?
They can, the museums, maybe they can take copies, but the originals must be there.
Why aren't the communities making more of these sculptures?
Knowing.
They've lost the ability to make them. So
They
they've
lost the ability.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I was told that
They lost the ability, but they lost the mentality.
as well.
Like a flute example. We can make flutes, we can make guitars, we can make drums. But why? What for?
Do you think then that musical instruments from outside of Colombia that are coming in are another problem? Because the musical instruments that were in the tribes were because geography plays a very important part. You need to have musical instruments from the location, made from that wood in that location, because it accompanies the language and the energy. When you start bringing guitars and putting them into ceremonies, they have a completely different effect. So you're saying that the mentality to make them has gone. Has also the skill to make them gone? I was under the impression that to make some of these little sculptures, it takes like 50 molds or something. They're very complex things to make.
Not just the sculptures. For example, a drum. A drum in the museum is in silence. Yeah? But in the middle of the jungle or in mountains, a drum can be used to call the rest of the people. One drum here sounds in the other mountain, another drum sounds in third mountain, etc. But in the museum or in your apartment, in your house, it doesn't live. Art must believe you're an artist. And you know that.
Yes, I think, but I have different ideas. When you have art, you can have public art. For instance, like you have a Francis Bacon or a Picasso or a Matisse. Those pictures are so important that they should be in an art gallery. Maybe there's a difference between an art gallery and a museum, but art galleries are still pretty sometimes depressing. I would like to see a studio makeup with a picture in a studio, because then you sort of have the context it was made in with the paints and paintbrushes. There are some things that are very important. Perhaps if those little sculptures weren't in the Museo de Oro, then nobody would know that those things existed. So maybe how would you rectify this problem, that there are some things that need to be known and then there are some things that need to be in the community?
Yes, and I think that the museum's paper is very important. You in Europe, or you in Africa, Asia, Australia, America, you must know what we are in Colombia. You have right, because again, there are no countries. There are just one world. There are just one humanity. In every part of the world, you have right to know who I am. What is my culture? How is my culture? The museums have this paper, and I think it's important. But it must be working. In the Museo del Oro, there is a game, a beautiful game. You can go to play. It's an African game with seats, and people go. There is not just a game. There is a cultural game. You won if you take all the seats, but I have the obligation to share more seats to you. Because seats are not mine. Seats are yours too. It's in the Museo del Oro in Bogotá. African culture. If it's active, if this game is living, it's perfect. But if you have a video and photo saying that's a game from Africa, oh, beautiful.
But no one plays it, so it's useless.
Plays. But in the Museo del Oro, you can play the game. I think that's the real paper of the museums.
When you say paper, what do you mean? The real...
Paper is what do the museums must